The first thing anyone noticed was the little boy trying to catch snowflakes with cracked hands, while his younger sister cried from hunger in the back seat of an old truck that had stopped at the edge of a frozen ranch. Their father had not come looking for charity. He had come carrying the last thing a proud man ever wanted to offer, his own strength in exchange for 2 simple bottles of milk. The woman who owned the ranch had already lost almost everything to the brutal winter, but she had no idea that the stranger standing at her gate would soon become the only reason her family's legacy survived. Before we begin, if you believe kindness, second chances, and compassion can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Corner for more unforgettable stories that remind us of the goodness still living in this world. Malcolm Carter had spent his entire life believing that hard work could solve almost any problem. As a black single father raising 2 young children after losing his wife to a sudden illness 3 years earlier, he carried every burden alone without complaining. He worked construction during warmer months, repaired engines whenever he could find customers, and accepted any honest job that allowed him to keep food on the table. But no amount of determination could fight the worst winter the county had experienced in decades. Roads closed, construction projects disappeared overnight, repair shops shut their doors, bills piled higher while opportunities disappeared beneath thick blankets of snow. Every morning, Malcolm woke before sunrise, promising his children that things would get better, even though his own stomach had been empty for nearly 2 days. His son Isaiah had quietly stopped asking for toys weeks earlier. Instead, he only asked whether there would be cereal for breakfast. His little sister Ava was too young to understand why the refrigerator had become almost empty. She simply asked for milk every evening before bed, because that had become part of the routine. Her mother started years ago. Each time Malcolm looked into those hopeful little eyes, another piece of his heart broke. Pride meant nothing compared to hungry children. The local shelters were already overwhelmed. Food banks had stretched every donation as far as possible. Malcolm accepted help whenever it was offered, but supplies disappeared quickly because so many families faced the same desperate situation. After hearing that a large ranch several miles outside town desperately needed workers after a devastating blizzard destroyed fences and trapped livestock, Malcolm filled the truck with his children, hoping someone there might give him a chance. The ranch belonged to Eleanor Whitmore, a widow in her late 50s who had inherited hundreds of acres from generations of hardworking ranchers. Years earlier, her husband had managed every difficult season with confidence and experience, but after his passing, Eleanor found herself carrying responsibilities that once belonged to 2 people. The winter storm had become her greatest nightmare. Hundreds of feet of fencing had collapsed. Frozen water lines threatened entire herds of cattle. Several workers had quit after roads became impassable. The ranch was quietly slipping toward financial disaster. When Malcolm stepped through the falling snow and approached her porch, he looked more exhausted than any man Eleanor had ever seen. His coat was worn thin, his boots leaked with every step, and behind him sat 2 children wrapped in blankets inside an aging pickup truck. He did not ask for money. He did not beg. He simply lowered his eyes and offered something far more valuable. He explained that if she could spare enough milk to feed his children, he would work until every broken fence stood again, every frozen pipe flowed, and every animal was safe. His words carried no self-pity. They carried only the quiet determination of a father refusing to surrender. Something inside Eleanor shifted the moment she looked toward the truck and saw little Ava pressing her tiny hand against the frosted window, while Isaiah tried distracting his sister from her hunger by pointing at birds flying through the snow. Eleanor remembered raising her own son years earlier, before tragedy claimed him in a highway accident. Grief recognized grief without needing explanations. She handed Malcolm far more than milk that day. She invited the children inside to warm themselves near the fireplace, while she prepared hot soup, fresh bread, and warm cocoa. Malcolm hesitated, uncomfortable accepting charity, but Eleanor gently reminded him that accepting kindness did not erase dignity. Sometimes it honored it. The next morning, before daylight reached the frozen hills, Malcolm was already repairing fences buried beneath snowdrifts. He worked with remarkable focus, despite blistered hands and aching muscles. Every task he completed revealed another problem waiting nearby. Yet he never slowed down. Eleanor watched from her kitchen window, realizing that this stranger treated the ranch as though it belonged to him. Days turned into weeks. Malcolm repaired machinery that others had declared beyond saving. He designed simple solutions for frozen water systems, using salvaged parts instead of expensive replacements. He rescued newborn calves trapped during another storm and carried them through waist-deep snow to safety. Even after exhausting days, he returned inside smiling because Isaiah and Ava had begun laughing again. The children slowly transformed the quiet ranch house into a home filled with warmth. Isaiah eagerly helped feed chickens every morning before school buses resumed operating. Ava followed Eleanor everywhere, asking endless questions about horses, flowers, and the old family photographs decorating the walls. Laughter returned to rooms that had remained painfully silent for years. Meanwhile, neighbors began noticing unexpected changes. The Whitmore Ranch, once rumored to be heading toward bankruptcy, suddenly appeared stronger than ever. Cattle losses dropped dramatically. Equipment failures became rare. Even neighboring ranchers asked Malcolm for advice on protecting livestock during severe weather. His reputation spread not because he sought recognition, but because excellence naturally attracted attention. One afternoon, a wealthy developer visited Eleanor with an offer to purchase the entire property. The amount would erase every financial worry she faced. Many believed she would finally surrender the exhausting responsibilities of ranch life. Instead, she walked across the snowy fields where Malcolm was repairing another section of fencing and watched him teaching Isaiah how to properly stretch wire while Ava built tiny snow animals nearby. In that simple moment, Eleanor understood something money could never replace. A ranch was never merely land. It was people. It was sacrifice. It was family built through shared hardship. Selling would rescue her finances, but it would destroy the purpose that had finally returned to her life. She declined the offer. Instead, Eleanor met privately with her attorney. Weeks later, she surprised Malcolm with documents establishing him as the permanent operations manager of the ranch, along with a generous salary, health insurance, and a comfortable home on the property for his children. Even more astonishing, she included long-term ownership options that would eventually allow Malcolm to become a partner rather than simply an employee. Malcolm struggled to hold back tears as he realized someone finally believed in his future instead of judging his past. Everything he had fought so desperately to protect suddenly seemed possible again. His children would never have to wonder where their next meal would come from. They would grow surrounded by stability instead of fear. The following spring painted the ranch with fields of wildflowers stretching farther than the eye could see. New calves grazed peacefully, while repaired barns stood proudly against bright blue skies. Isaiah learned to ride horses with growing confidence. Ava planted a small flower garden beside Eleanor's porch, insisting every bloom reminded her of hope after snow. People across the county often asked Eleanor why she had trusted a stranger who appeared at her gate with nothing except tired eyes and hungry children. She always smiled before giving the same answer. She explained that character is easiest to recognize when someone has nothing left except integrity. Malcolm had arrived asking only for enough milk to keep his children alive. Yet he repaid that kindness by saving generations of family history. The greatest investments were never measured in dollars. They were measured in people willing to carry one another through impossible seasons. If this story has touched your heart so far, please like this video, share it with friends and family, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and let us know in the comments, because your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Special request, before this story ends, please comment with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe one act of compassion can completely change someone's life. Years later, visitors driving past Whitmore Ranch rarely knew the incredible story hidden behind its fences. They simply saw healthy fields, smiling workers, children running freely beneath open skies, and two generations brought together, not by blood but by mercy. What began with one desperate father asking only for milk became a legacy built on trust, gratitude, and love. The harsh winter that nearly destroyed two broken families became the very season that united them forever. Sometimes the greatest miracles never arrive with applause or headlines. Sometimes they arrive quietly, wrapped in snow, carrying tired children, empty pockets, and a father whose greatest wealth was the promise that he would never stop fighting for those he loved. And when kindness finally answered that promise, it saved far more than a ranch. It restored hope, rebuilt a family, and proved that the smallest act of compassion can echo through generations, reminding us all that even in the coldest winters, the human heart still has the power to become someone else's spring.